What is a Squalo? Can a 9211 hang with other single action guns at the price point? All that and more. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David and this is the Beretta 9211 Squalo. Yes, Squalo. Sometimes when you're an Italian-based company, you have interesting names. But first, my dads, it's 2024. I need you to dad harder than you have previously. You have the most important job in the world. And to that point, I had a date last night and it was perfect. Tomorrow I'll have a fig. So what does Squalo mean? Why are we naming things Squalo? Well, the answer I actually got at SHOT Show this year talking to the folks from Beretta. Squalo is actually Italian for shark, and if you look at this beautiful gray gun with its kind of cool black and white grips, kind of looks like, you know, shark scales a little bit on it, and so that's where the name came from. It's because it looks like a shark. And if we're going to name guns after awesome things, I am here for it and want to promote naming guns cool stuff, not just letters and numbers. That's the worst. You probably didn't know that about me, that I'm a man of class and speak loads of Italian. Loads. But if you look at the gun, it's obviously intended to be a competition gun. You can tell based upon the enlarged magazine released and the magwell right there on the gun. And because single action only guns are becoming more and more popular in competitive shooting, this is a single action only gun as denoted by the frame mounted safety and the single action only style trigger. So you can also be an international citizen and a man of class and understand and decode Beretta speak. 92XI or 9211 as you'll hear it referred to. 92X means that it is the X frame with a more kind of 1911 style backstrap on the gun. You can see the exposed frame there, and versus the old profile of the back. And if you like the old profile of the old 92 Berettas, you can get these like wraparound grips that make them have the profile of the old 92 type guns. LOK Grips sells them. I've got a code HUMBLE. Maybe try it. And the other big feature about this gun, which makes it competition ready, is the magazines that it comes with. It comes with 3 magazines, and they have the Tony Systems base pads on them right there out of the box, which means that these are 22 round base pads, which means that this gun is more or less set up straight out of the box for USPSA limited optics division. And if you get short base pads, like I've got Springer Precision short base pads, they'll work with standard flush link ones. Because the magwell isn't a giant flower pot, there's a good chance that it might fit in the IDPA box, but I don't have a box to test. So the Squalo is a cool paint job on a 9211 with the specialized magazines. It's kind of the big takeaway, but how does it shoot and all of that? But first, I'm gonna drop mags all over the floor. But first, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, which is Gun Mag Warehouse. Now, I can't direct you to their website because various social media policies prohibit it, but you're a smart boy and you can probably figure out, but I wouldn't recommend you go there. Don't go to their website. Don't go to Gun Mag Warehouse's website because you wouldn't like anything they have there. Their prices are entirely too reasonable and their selection is too broad. I understand that you hate money and want to spend all of it, so it's really not a good fit for you. And the wide selection of stuff that you may or may not care about would probably just paralyze you. You like no selection and to keep things simple. Plus, the name is deceptive. I went to their website for you and they've got way more stuff than just what the name implies, like way more stuff. It makes me doubt the fact that they actually have a warehouse because they have way more than just, you know, gun mags. So definitely don't try and find out what Gun Mag Warehouse is. Do not do that. That would be absolutely terrible. You would be angry at me for recommending that you try it. Just sit at home, spend all your money, and only like the things who own social media networks tell you to like. That's the safe way to go. Thank you to Gun Mag Warehouse for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. All right, back to Mr. Squalo. So those of you who follow the channel know that way back in like 2020, I was actually competing with Beretta 92s when the 92 Elite LTT first came out. I actually shot Carry Optics Nationals with that gun. I really like how the Beretta 92 shoots, and I think that it's kind of an unsung hero in the space. This gun was not sent to me by Beretta. This is my buddy Paul, the Gentleman Gunners. You can check out his channel on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. This is his gun, so he's got it on loan to me. But I do think that the Beretta 92 shoots better, especially with the presence of the magwell. Like, my one biggest gripe about how the Beretta 92 handles, well, there are 2 major gripes. And one of them is that if you've got fat palms, like I've got fat palms, then you pinch your palms on the reload sometimes when you're using the big stick type magazine. The Tony Systems magwell completely keep you out of the mag funnel, and it turns the 92 grip into something that is super duper comfortable. The second gripe that I have about the Beretta 92s, and it's not so much a problem on the standard profile slides, which this one has, the Brigadier slides, which are wider, it's a little bit more, is manipulating forward of the cocking serrations. You can go underneath the rail if you like, or you can go over the top. You just kind of learn how to grab onto the slide, but you've got a reduced area. Where that gets a little bit dicey is on practice days when you're heating the gun up, shooting a lot, the barrel gets really hot, and if you touch it, it's gonna let you know. But part of what makes the Beretta 92 shoot so well is the fact the gun is very well balanced. Like if I take all my hand off the gun, the balance kind of sits back kind of over the trigger guard, which means when you're shooting fast, the gun doesn't want to oscillate as much. The muzzle doesn't do it. Now that's despite the very high bore axis. If you look at kind of the center line of the border right there, it's one of the highest going, but because it's not a traditional Browning action with the tilt up barrel, the barrel stays completely flat. And if you look at where all the weight on the slide is, most of the weight is below where the barrel is. So it doesn't have as much want to kind of lift in recoil. At least that's what I've observed. And that's part of why I like it so much. So it is a super well balanced gun. And because its pedigree is a service pistol, it is reliable generally right out of the box. At least all the Berettas that I've got have been super great. The one thing that is kind of difficult to get around is the plate system on how it attaches optics. It does have kind of a higher ride optic profile, which isn't the best, but there is aftermarket plate companies that have kind of, you know, reduced height interfaces with the slide. You can see that there. So when I was validating Zero at 25 yards, a 5-shot group to check and make sure that Zero was good, and I got, you know, very good accuracy out of it, which is typical for the Beretta 92s. They have amazing ergonomics, and the trigger pulls straight to the rear makes them very, very nice. Another feature that I didn't mention in kind of the lead up is these kind of sport takedown lever, which acts as kind of a bit of a thumb rest. If you're one of the guys who likes to try and control recoil through a thumb rest, that option's available to you, but only if you're right-handed. I just use it as an index point and let my thumb rest on it to know that I have my grip locked in. Some features to talk about right out of the box. The trigger is single action only, and so it's got a little bit of take up to get to the wall there, and this one has about just shy of 5-pound trigger pull, which isn't ideal. I know you competitors are probably going to want out and monkey it and change the hammer or something like that, but it's honestly not that bad. And then there's a tiny little bit of creep before the release, and then a very short over travel. And looking at the reset, it is reasonably short. It's not super short, but it is very easy to get at because they have this nice sort of hook to the trigger. It is very broad and has a serrated face. It's very easy to reach the trigger. I think small-handed shooters will probably like the way the single action Berettas are set up. And because of the geometry of the trigger face, it's very easy to pull straight to the rear. The enlarged magazine button that is on the gun, honestly, if this were my gun, I would have to trim it and make it be a little bit shorter. It's just too big and comes too far back, which would be nice for our small-handed shooters. But what I found is that in recoil, it sort of punches me in the palm right there because I have fat palms. But ultimately, it is very easy to get at, so it is a nice feature for the gun. Since Beretta has a number of different combinations of slides and frames, this is an M9A1 holster, and Mr. Squalo fits in it beautifully. So the M9A1 style holsters will work with the Squalo. For sporting purposes, this gun is set up with a magwell, but the magwell is a little bit small. It looks like it's roughly the IPSC box, maybe the IDPA box width. It is still a much bigger cavern and opening into the frame. It's very nice to throw reloads into. But when you compare it to like a 2011 style magwell, you can see that it's you know, the one she told you not to worry about. That said, there is options on magwells from Tony Systems, who makes the magwell that's on this gun, that will get you that same flower pot type magwell and look absolutely ridiculous and completely not practical. I guess it is practical because it makes reloading easier, but it just, there's no prayer of concealing a gun with a flower pot on it. Another thing holding back the Squalo, and this is easily fixed with aftermarket as well, is the magazines only hold 22 rounds. It has a lockback follower, so if you change the follower to not a lockback follower, then you're probably barking up the door of a 23 round gun. And 22 is fine. Reloading to 22, even if you have 23 to get it in there, is probably the right amount of rounds. So the manual of arms, the safeties that they have are honestly a nice size. They are very easy to manipulate from both sides of the gun. So if you're doing strong hand or weak hand shooting, the safeties are really well set up. They make a nice little ledge for your thumb to kind of rest on, but kind of keep it out of the way as well. It's not like a huge annoying paddle, but it's also very difficult to miss the safeties. The gun at speed is very stable to shoot, and coupled with the trigger and the trigger geometry that we talked about, it's very easy to be accurate with. While the trigger pull weight is a little bit heavy for a competition gun, it's honestly pretty great. So let's finish up and talk about the price. The price on these guns, find them on the internet for somewhere between $1,200 and $1,300. MSRP is, I believe, like $1,350 or something like that. Considering what comes with 3 magazines, the magazines are super cheap. Beretta mags, you can get the Mechgar 18 rounders for like, I think they're like 25, maybe 30 bucks. They're all over the place and they're almost always in stock. The 92 mags are brilliant, especially the ones made by Mechgar. So you can compare that to like a $1,300 to $1,500 2011. You're going to have a mag, well, you've got access to cheaper magazines that are arguably more reliable. The 92 platform is almost as easy. I would argue probably easier to work on than the 2011 platform. So if you wanted to get into it and do like trigger jobs with, you know, off-the-shelf parts from like Langdon Tactical or something like that, it's very easy to work on, very easy to keep in operation, and it's got track record of being a very reliable pistol. Now, I know some of you service veterans are gonna get in there and be like, I shot a clapped out 92 that was never serviced and it was garbage. Yes, but that's not what these 92s are. I would say that the 92 in this trim format would be a pretty favorable comparison against like a polymer gripped 2011 style gun. And if you just did the little bits of tweaks that are required, you would have a very competitive gun for USPSA right there out of the box. And if you watched this far, you're probably also considering the 92X Performance, and you can watch that video in the link right here.